Hello and welcome to another Paula Armstrong Ceramics. So for this video I thought I would do a quick question and answer video. I've been asked recently what the process is to turn clay into ceramic. I've had some beginners and I've been doing workshops with people who've never done clay before, so this has been quite a common question of late. So I thought I would run through a video and just go through the most typical process for turning clay into ceramic. So clay is very malleable and it's what we build everything in. Once you've built your piece, it then has to dry out completely before it can then go through the firing process. Now, the firing process is where the piece, the clay, goes into a kiln and it gets heated up. The first firing is commonly called a bisque firing or a biscuit firing. And this is usually a slightly lower temperature firing than the final firing. There's usually two firings in the process typically. The first firing is the biscuit firing and it's a bit lower, and what it does is it turns the clay to a point where it's ready to accept glaze. So it's a bit stronger than the clay is when it's dried out, but it's still porous. So it will still absorb some of the water from the glaze, making it easy to apply to the piece. It also means when you apply the glaze, it dries out super quick. So that's the first firing. Obviously, once you take it out of the bisque firing, you then put your glaze on, however you want to apply it, be it a brush-on glaze, dipping or spraying or any other method. At that point, it's decorated. Because you've just put some water back into the clay, it's probably a good idea to leave it to dry for a little bit again. It doesn't take very long at this point. It's like if you leave it till the next day and then put it in for the next firing, that's fine. I have to admit I'm sometimes trying to be a bit fast and shortcut that and then go straight in to the kiln after it's been glazed. The next firing is the glaze firing. So the second firing is to set the glaze and melt, so you get your nice glaze covering, or whatever surface you've put on there. So if you've used oxides or any of the other surfaces, it's to set these surfaces for you and melt the glaze down so that you have that nice shiny coating on the surface of the ceramic. It also takes the clay to a much higher temperature. In my case, my bisque is 1000 degrees and my glaze firing is 1200. And the difference between those is enough to make the clay stronger. So you're getting much closer to the top end of the firing range of the clay, which means you're getting closer to the point where the clay will vitrify and no longer be porous, and it's very strong, or at least as strong as clay gets. Obviously clay will still break, ceramic breaks, but it's a lot stronger at that point than any previous point in the making. Now, once it's gone through the glaze firing, then of course your piece is finished, so you can then take it home with you and use it for whatever it was going to be used for. Now, I hope that helps explain the process. It also helps explain the time that it takes to make pieces. So usually within the process you have whatever time it takes you to make at the start. Then you've got the drying time. So usually here I leave them a minimum of a week after they've been made to dry out completely before they go into the bisque firing. And each of the firings take about 12 hours to get up to temperature and then 24 to cool down. So I generally say it's a day up and a day down. So it's a 2-day firing process essentially. So I've put a kiln on today and I will get the pieces out in 2 days' time. And then you've got the time it takes to glaze, another day to dry that off, and then another 2 days to fire again. So it's quite a long process and you need a bit of patience, and it's very different to something like the Great Pottery Throwdown where they do everything in a week. But it's generally it takes a bit longer than that, especially if you want to avoid things like cracking and breakages. So I hope that helps. I hope that answers the question for you, and I will see you in the next video.